It is August. Last month, all my chickens got killed by a mink and the nest of my only sitting duck got destroyed as well. This time, 3 brave ducks decided to go for one last push on producing offspring this year. Brownie, the idiot, and the general. Long ago, the 3 ducks brooded in harmony, but then everything changed when the idiot attacked. Only the general, master of all ducklings, could stop her, but when the world needed her the most, she was busy minding her own business. Brownie and the general were stacking their nests and starting to brood at the same time like a clockwork, and 5 days later, the idiot decided to sit down on her own eggs as well. We now had the following groundwork laid out. For about a week or two, everything went fine, but then the idiot, hence the name she earned for herself, started craving more power. She started attacking Brownie, bullying her out of her nest and sitting on Brownie's eggs instead. When I saw it, I moved the idiot back to her own nest, on which she suddenly realized that she has her own nest and settled down. But it didn't take long for her to go after Brownie's nest again. So I thought, fine, let's try this then. I let the idiot sit on Brownie's nest and put Brownie on the idiot's nest. But that would have been too simple if that solves everything, right? Because at that point, the idiot started attacking Brownie again and mobbed her out of the other nest as well. Giving her the name idiot doesn't really do her justice. I should have called her asshole instead. We want to be family friendly around here though, right? So I settled on idiot. I then installed a screen between the 2 nests to block out the vision between Brownie and the idiot, and it worked for a few days until it didn't. Which brings me to this footage of installing a prison for the idiot, keeping her isolated and from disturbing the other nests. I divided some of the eggs she had been sitting on to Brownie and the general, as well as kept a few eggs for her to sit on as well. As I put her into her very own special facility, it became apparent that it was, first off, not the most secure place. And that, of course, she did not recognize the nest that I had built for her as her own. I quickly scrapped the idea that the wire that I put in place to keep her behind locked bars would provide anything more than a small distraction, and put down some pallet wood to solidify the makeshift prison. To make sure that she really couldn't escape, I even put a lid on top of it. Long story short, she did not accept the nest at all and left the eggs alone, so I divided the rest of them between Brownie and the general. A few days later, the idiot had successfully been unbrooded, and I could release her back into the enclosure without her terrorizing the other nests. 3 weeks later, the date is the 16th of September. The ducks were scheduled to hatch any day now, and I would have loved to just leave them be, hatch their own and raise them. But ducks usually wait 2 or 3 days after the first duckling hatched until they leave their nest. Every egg that hasn't hatched by that stage would be deemed bad and left or eaten. But since I mixed the eggs of the idiot in there, I was presented with the possibility of Brownie's and the general's eggs hatching, them leaving the nest even though the eggs of the idiot hadn't hatched yet, and looking at 8 eggs that were just days shy of hatching, but with no one to sit on them. So my plan was to take care of the ducklings of Brownie and the general for 5 days by myself, until all eggs have hatched, and then putting them back out to their respected moms. While it does break my heart in some form, I was doing it to ensure that every egg would hatch and every duckling was given a chance at survival. Thus, I stole my first baby and stuffed it under the heat pad and makeshift cage that I had built inside my house. These ducklings quickly multiplied, and I made sure that they were taught where to find food and water. In preparation of letting them back outside, I built a small area for the ducklings to have constant access to food and water, having the entrance area barred off with gaps big enough for ducklings to fit through, but too big for grown-up ducks to barge in and eat all the baby food. A few days after the first ducklings hatched, I ventured outside to have a look at the remaining eggs by candling them, and I gotta say, while being extensively watched by Brownie, that the idiot did live up to its name. Because all the remaining eggs from her were dead. Probably because she ventured away a few too many times from her nest while trying to steal Brownies. I got rid of the dead eggs and started introducing the ducklings back to their mothers. Starting carefully, I only gave out 1 duckling. The immediate problem being that they couldn't even get up to the little ledge, so I worked on removing that. The response was solid though, with the general immediately assuming the mother role and with constant mother noises leading her new duck around. So I gave out 2 more. She then went outside, probably to give them the first lesson in foraging. Feeling bad for Brownie, who had now neither eggs nor ducklings, I brought out 3 more, hoping that they would accept her as the mother and her sense of motherhood as well. It didn't take long for them to defect to the general, so maybe they just didn't have long enough to bond with her new mother, leading me to try and get them some time together, keeping the general out of sight. An hour later, while checking up on them, I was welcomed by the general now sort of owning all 6 ducklings that they put out there. Fine, I figured. The first duck they saw while being put out there was the general, so I'll just try again with 3 more ducklings. I got them out, showed them their place for food and drink, and closed Brownie in with them. Mothering ensued, and I thought this time for sure. Brownie, however, really wanted to go out. For probably the same reason as when the general left the house so quickly, to share food and drink to her young ones. But only 20 minutes later, Brownie lost one of her ducklings to the general. Another 10 minutes later, all of them defected to the supreme leader. I still had a few ducks inside, so there was the chance that maybe some would actually stay with Brownie. One more try, 3 more for Brownie. Quick side note, there was this bird of prey who was probably looking for a snack, and ducks do this thing where they tilt their heads towards the sky having a look at them. Thankfully, Muscovies are well known for being very protective and they would hide in the bushes when it gets too dangerous. So no ducklings have been lost to birds of prey, and won't be in the future, hopefully. Speaking of things that had been lost, however, guess who lost all of their ducklings yet again? I still had a few ducklings inside my house, but with having witnessed this really one-sided battle for the ducklings, I think it's safe to say that any duckling that I would put out now would go to the general instead of Brownie. Speaking of which, there was this one duckling that had me worried. He had a condition called wry neck, which is basically a deformation of his neck. I've seen a few ducklings like this before and none of them survived for very long. Whenever ducks have a drink, they raise their heads to let the water slide down their throats. This little guy, however, went above and beyond, plus ultra, in raising his head. You could say he went so far as to lose balance and topple over backwards whenever he had a drink. So before putting him and the others out as well, I marked him with some disinfectant spray. It is completely safe for them and I only used it to mark his feathers a bit to differentiate him from the others. In the first night with so many new ducklings outside, you could notice a slight change in behavior of the ducks in the house. The general as well as Brownie were really protective of their young ones and lashed out at any duck coming close to them or just looking at them the wrong way. And Brownie might have also been frustrated because none of the duckies wanted to stay with her. What crystallized though was that the general and her ducklings chose a corner and stayed there, after making it clear that anyone who would go near them deserved the death penalty. The next morning I wanted to make sure that all the babies knew where their food and water was, but the general was more interested in going outside than anything else. She would have had her reasons and I shouldn't try to force anything too unnatural for them. In the end I gave them some baby food on a plate and at long last I got the ducklings to eat some of it. Mission accomplished. Time to get the last ducks out there.
Up and at 'em, kids. Up and at 'em. Yep, I mean you guys. You especially, little one. I want you to have a good drink. Yep, maybe not that good. Oh, you're so gonna die. Yep, she's gonna hear that. Now listen, this dude is a special care guy, okay? He's gonna need special care. So take extra care of him. There's 2 more coming. One here. And one more. Now go on, join your brothers and sisters. And have a good time.
The army of the general now being 16 ducklings strong, it was time to hand over the reins and let her do the educating.